Namaskar and welcome to Tibet This Week. This is Tenzin Chutso with another edition of weekly news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the President of Central Tibetan Administration condoles the demise of former Delhi Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile congratulate newly elected President of European Commission. His Holiness the Dalai Lama advises collaboration between ancient Tibetan medical practices and other medical disciplines. Ladakh-based education reformist hails His Holiness the Dalai Lama's message of religious harmony. CTA President Dr. Lobsang Sangay addresses the Tibetan students of Summer Camp Program 2019. US Congressmen assure continued support to Tibetans. UN experts question China over sentencing Tibetans for celebrating 80th birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. China remains the world's largest prison for journalists, says Reporters Without Borders. On Saturday last week, the longest-serving Chief Minister of Delhi and a dear friend of Tibet, Srimati Sheila Dikshit, passed away after suffering a cardiac arrest. The Tibetan spiritual leader, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Central Tibetan Administration offered condolences to the families and relatives of veteran Indian leader to remember her long association with and support for the Tibetan cause. She was a staunch supporter and long-time friend of Tibet and Tibetan people who had deep reverence for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. She played a vital role in ensuring the welfare of Tibetans living in India, especially Tibetan residents of Delhi, said CTA President Dr. Lobsang Sangay, while adding that Tibetans worldwide will forever remember her as a torchbearer of Tibetan movement in India and a true friend. I am sorry to learn about your mother's passing away. Your mother lived a meaningful life devoted to the service of others. It was an honor to meet her over the years. She was a close friend of Tibetan people. Tibetan spiritual leader, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, wrote to her son, Mr. Sandeep Dikshit, to express his condolences. Srimati Sheila Dikshit was the president of the Delhi Congress. The veteran politician was the longest-serving chief minister of Indian capital, serving for 3 terms from 1998 to 2013. His Holiness the Dalai Lama congratulated Ursula von der Leyen on her election as the next president of the European Commission. In a congratulatory letter published on the official website of His Holiness the Dalai Lama last Friday, the Tibetan spiritual leader conveyed his great admiration for the spirit of the European Union that promotes the collective interests of people and nations in the spirit of genuine cooperation. His Holiness wrote, as envisioned by its founders in the spirit of reconciliation and cooperation that followed World War II, the European Union has put the common good ahead of the local interests of individual countries, adding that he hopes similar unions in Africa, Latin America, and Asia would fortify global peace. Speaker of Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile, Pema Chungne, also congratulated the new president of the European Commission and conveyed the Tibetan people's gratitude to European Union for the support to the Tibetans by adopting resolutions on Tibet cause, human rights violation inside Tibet, and to resume dialogue between the Chinese government and the envoy of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and for organizing hearings on Tibet. The election of Ursula von der Leyen to the coveted post makes her the first woman to serve as the president of the European Commission. His Holiness the Dalai Lama on Friday last week met with the graduates, teachers, and faculty of Tibetan Medical and Astrology Institute at his residence and advised the gathering to collaborate between the ancient way of Tibetan medicine and other practice of medicine such as Indian Ayurvedic. Speaking on the traditional Tibetan science of medicine known as Sowa Rigpa in Tibetan, His Holiness said, Sowa Rigpa addresses the need of mind and spirit and is mainly used to treat the physical illness of the body. It has helped and continues to help many people despite the belief in the system of medicine or not. His Holiness called the members of the Tibetan Medical and Astrology Institute to make use of the available opportunities and facilities to exchange learning and experiences with one another.
고급 싸와 여대버디 고급도 짠네. 그래서 무튼이 지금 냠냠 제리지하다. 에너지 가서 그게 자에네 소르베 그게 라레 모멘트네 이야기로 컨스탄야도가. 근데도 상당토나 그 지금 차진으로 단 좀네 여대버 있잖아요. 에너코 야견 조퇴야지 자신 것도 센터면 몇에 되게만 내게 시행요.
Traditional Tibetan science of medicine is a significant part of Tibetan culture, and it's also benefiting many people in reality. So therefore, you must always strive to upgrade the standard of Tibetan medicine, suggested His Holiness the Dalai Lama. At a time when the world is spiraling towards polarization and religious sectarianism is dividing societies apart, His Holiness the Dalai Lama's persistent calls for religious harmony, understanding, and dialogue is building bridges between communities that were otherwise divided. This week, the Tibetan Buddhist and Muslim community in Ladakh came together to mark this year's Khade Yarju Chemo, a summer Buddhist council held at a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Nubra. The Summer Buddhist Council is an initiative inspired and patronized by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Except for this year, His Holiness has chaired all the Summer Buddhist councils in Ladakh. Speaking at the proceedings of Yarju Chemo, renowned innovator and education reformist Sonam Wangchu conveyed a message to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in which he observed how His Holiness' message of harmony and oneness was doing magic in Ladakh communities. He thanked His Holiness for his tireless and decades-long efforts in promoting interfaith dialogue and religious harmony in the region.
At a time when the world is divided and going away from one another, at a time when even in Ladakh, various sects of even same religion were going apart from each other, different sects having distances and differences, your message of harmony and togetherness is doing magic. Your Holiness may not be here today. We pray for your good health and long life, but your teachings are being absorbed by people somewhat like Eklavya learned from Guru Dronacharya without his presence.
Every year, Tibetan students from the diaspora get enrolled in summer school camp program, wherein the students are given education and exercises to learn Tibetan language, culture, music, history, and basic teachings on Buddhism. This year, 32 students have come from US, Canada, Switzerland, France, and Austria. President Sangay addressed the students at Kashak Secretariat and briefed them about the Central Tibetan Administration and its various departments and roles played by each department. President also narrated about the present scenario of Tibetans in exile and how it has garnered success over the last 60 years, which is unmatched by any other refugee community in the world. We owe our achievement and success to none other than His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Therefore, you must always be grateful, said President Sangay. The President advised the students to preserve Tibet's distinct culture, religion, and language and safeguard the cultural heritage. The Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey hosted a first-of-its-kind town hall meeting in the presence of the chair of Congressional Executive Committee on China, Congressmen Jim McGovern and Tom Suozzi in New York on Saturday last week. Representative Mutup Tsering attended along with Matteo McCarthy, President of International Campaign for Tibet, and CECC staffers. About 300 Tibetans attended the hearing held at the newly built community hall, Kunzo Deshe Hall. Congressman Tom Suozzi and Chair McGovern fully supported the plans of the Commission to update the 2002 Tibet Policy Act, with provisions for the elevation of the CTA status and reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The Congressmen also assured to help bring the survivors of religious persecution in the next year's prestigious national prayer breakfast and promised that there will be representation from the Tibetan community. More than a dozen Tibetans raised concerns from travel restrictions to espionage in the diaspora Tibetan community, and they expressed the need for increased recognition of CTA. The representative of Office of Tibet, Washington, Modup Tsering, described the 2-hour-long meeting as fulfilling, rewarding, and inspiring. 5 UN independent experts have expressed concern and questioned China over charges brought against 9 Tibetans who were imprisoned for participating in the celebration of the 80th birth anniversary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 2015, and advocating for cultural and religious rights. The Intermediate People's Court in Parkam, Ngaba Tibetan area, incorporated into China's Sichuan province, has sentenced 9 Tibetans for wearing prison terms ranging from 5 to 14 years in December 2016. Expressing deep regret over China's response towards what appears to be a cultural and religious expression by the 9 Tibetans, the experts voiced concern over frequent application of Article 103(2) of the Chinese criminal law on incitement to separatism to suppress freedom of expression, religion, assembly and association and the cultural rights of Tibetan minority. The experts have asked China to clarify and provide detailed information on 9 Tibetans who they said were unjustly imprisoned. All 9 Tibetans had previously been jailed for wearing prison terms for participating in protests and some for allegation of what China calls inciting separatism. A recent report published by Reporters Without Borders said China continues to remain as the world's worst abuser of press freedom and jails the largest number of journalists in its prisons. In commemorating the 2nd death anniversary of Liu Xiaobo, a Nobel Peace Laureate and winner of the RSF Press Freedom Prize, the Reporters Without Borders reiterated that China remains the biggest prison for both professional and citizen journalists, with at least 112 of them behind bars, of whom several are serving life sentences. In its newly released 2019 World Press Freedom Index, Reporters Without Borders evaluated 180 countries in terms of journalistic freedom and the degree to which the governments across the world censor their own press. China is ranked 177th, with only Eritrea, North Korea, and Turkmenistan ranked worse. That's all for this week. See you in the next edition of Tibet This Week. Have a good weekend.